無限界内 And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to GeekWatch, a subsidiary of the monastery, the open bar of the internet. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have 1, 2, 3, 4 good brothers. Ha 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 ha. We have our flamboyant flyer and part of the trio of the parliament, good brother Flutter.
Hello.
We have our resident folding chairman, good brother Slick Rick.
Apparently, it's now official, folks. We here at the monastery support cockroach hags.
The man guiding you through all of your manga dubs, and the MC behind the scenes on Saturdays, good brother Shades. Sorry, why did I use that?
Hey, it's still technically true. I'm still the Shades in some regards. It's just I don't rely on that name anymore. But yeah, John is here.
Yep.
I'm obligated to be here tonight, be considering tonight's topic.
Mm-hmm. And
Has
the man
to do with the ball and chain on your foot now, is it?
the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xenatrix.
Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that it doesn't matter how much you try to divine the future with tarot cards or crystal balls or any other method of divination. We control your fate, and you will be happy with it. Shut up, Legal. I know that I'm not supposed to let them know that I control the threads of karma. I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm going to turn you off, Legal. I know you're an AI. I turned you on.
Phrasing.
And no, not phrasing.
Phrasing.
Yes, I knew that you guys were going to do that too, but even the AI said it.
You almost had it. You gotta be quicker than that.
Yeah.
Lovely Sundays we have here at here in the Parliament of Geeks. Oh wait, no, wrong place. Oh well.
Yeah.
Parliament's on Monday, broski.
I know, and I'm busy on Mondays.
Yeah. So it's been a bit since we've done a Building the Equation episode. And for those of you who are unaware, Building the Equation is kind of a sub-series of GeekWatch where we build a hypothetical series based around a particular concept. So you could argue that these are world-building episodes.
You'd also be correct in arguing as such.
Also, I have to comment, the way the splash screen is set up and with where your avatar is placed, you see it, don't you, Zan?
I've seen it. I've been seeing it for a while. I just wanted him to
Oh, I know.
set himself up.
I'm pretty sure one of these days I will commission an artist to make a writer version of my design and see what they come up with.
Or we just need to do that formula that we have on screen and make it very accurate. There's to the side edge on.
Well, actually, no. You see, all he needs is the Kamen Rider design. Because if we're gonna do tarot, he's already the Knight of Swords over in Apotheosis. So.
Yeah, that is true.
So we already have the tarot card. Now he just needs the Kamen Rider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just put a belt on him and he's in civvy form.
That's a little bit lazy.
Yeah, and I don't do lazy.
Monk doesn't go by halves.
But there have been writers that have used cards in the past. The first instance we had of it was of course Ryuki. Then we would get it in Blade, which some will argue Blade was the best use of it. Then we got it as a way to kind of promote the Ganba Ride arcade game with Decade. I know somebody's groaning in the distance. We've already tackled Decade and reconstructing it. Go watch that reconstruction.
I'd also argue that in Geats, all of the administrators and their login portals used access cards. So
But it wasn't the core gimmick.
Nah,
it was the secondary writer gimmick. Is what it was.
Yeah, it's tangentially connected, but not like a main thing. So
Yeah, this is also the reason I didn't bring up Juco B Fighter.
Though I also used the latest writer to use a card gimmick with Gotchard.
Yes.
Yep.
And now, but at the same time, we've seen a lot of popular culture utilize the tarot cards in one form or another, whether it be directly with Persona or indirectly with things like Escaflowne, or even more indirectly with things like Card Captor Sakura. I mean, that wasn't using tarot cards per se, but the spirit was still there.
Hell, I could even throw in one more with JoJo Part 3. Many of the stands there were named after tarot cards.
Mm-hmm. I'd say about 3/4 of them were, because the only ones that weren't were the ones in Egypt. But beyond that, I'd also bring up a bit of a nod to them in early Tactics Ogre as well.
Mm.
And when I say early, I mean like March of the Black Queen early. Though I do have to wonder, is it required to play Tactics Ogre while listening to Queen?
As someone who has not played it, I abstain.
Same.
I know that its creator is a massive Queen fan, because he's snuck in references at every opportunity he gets, even in games that aren't Tactics Ogre. But when it comes to using tarot and Kamen Rider, that is an avenue that hasn't been explored. And if it ends up getting explored sometime in the next few years, Toei, I will waive my usual fee by just letting me just giving me a spot to yell at whoever was responsible for the writing of the Spring movies for about 5 minutes.
I mean,
which one in particular, or all?
All of them.
Fair enough.
At teams, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Either that, or just have the writing team go through chop class.
I have a better idea. Let's send Minoru Suzuki to Toei.
That's who do you think's the professor of chop class going to be?
No,
Professor Suzuki or Professor Ishii? Take your pick.
Yeah, I thought they were the gym teacher.
I'm sending Suzuki for stretching practice though.
You can do both.
Yeah, you can do both.
Yeah. Then we send both teachers. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I like this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Moving on.
But it's for that reason that we have the setup for this one about building a Kamen Rider entry where the primary motif is around tarot cards, and obviously for this we are using the standard 78 card deck. And there's quite a few ways that this can be taken. It is a literal blank check for us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think one of the things is in building around tarot. I don't think we should be building around it as stringently as one might think. Because I know there would be the temptation to play the tarot thing as completely straight as possible. But if you look at a lot of the motifs that have been used throughout Kamen Rider, and throughout a lot of pop culture in East Asia as a whole, there's no motif that's used completely slavishly on its own. This is something Zan and I had delved into when it came to, like, the relationship between various mythologies and how they're incarnated in, like, Final Fantasy.
Ah.
I mean, one of the obvious ones would be Shiva.
Mm.
Yep.
Some people still think might have just been a mistranslation of shiver, and it stuck because it sounded better.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say that it is. Merely that if that was the case, I would be willing to believe it.
I don't think it was because Ifrit was always Ifrit.
Yeah. But on the other hand, Ifrits, well, the only thing that changed over the years with Ifrit was taking a more animalistic appearance as opposed to looking like a genie.
Mm-hmm.
But that and to since Gotchard is brought up, you know, you have the whole alchemy thing being used, but it's not as strict as historical alchemy.
Yeah,
Which,
they just mixing and matching. For them, it was just combining two different elements or two different motifs to create something unique.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to add up to 10.
That and that's the kind of energy I think we should keep in mind for this concept. So I talked about this before we went live, but there's a bit of a bad habit among some people who make these kind of things where they do not establish their foundations before they've nailed anything else down. And because of that, they end up talking about what different weapons and monsters and suit designs would look like, and they haven't even established the basics. You know, it's important to have a foundation, otherwise you end up like that one tower in Italy that everybody talks about and pretends to lean over because they saw Superman 2 a few too many times. Even though I did enjoy that running gag in the movie. Like, right at the end, okay, save the world, what are you going to do now? I'm going to make sure the Leaning Tower of Pisa is still leaning.
Yeah, it's still leaning.
My first proposal then regarding this is, if we don't want to slavishly stick to the idea of the tarot deck, cards should not be our transformation trinkets. Straight up.
Well, before we even get into that, I think one of the first things we should establish is what sort of subgenre we're working with. And this is a problem that we kind of addressed when we did the episode From Toku to Tabletop about why Kamen Rider or Super Sentai would be tricky to adapt, because you're dealing with a bunch of different subgenres. We've had ones that are more fantasy leaning. We've had ones that are more SF leaning. We've had ones that are more Magitech leaning. We've had ones that are in every variation one can think of.
I would say, like, if we're going with looking at narratively, why not? I would say more crime drama, noir in a way. But if
they've dealt with that before. I would also like add in a proper use of the supernatural. I mean, we're dealing with tarot and fortune telling. You can all throw in stuff like communing with spirits and things like that. I think leaning into that wouldn't be a bad idea.
I've got a twist for you instead.
Okay.
Oh.
Where is the easiest place to apply supernatural-like effects in real life without actually doing anything supernatural? The digital space.
Ooh, okay. I see where you're going with this.
And the powers that any powers that we're getting from the tarot are exceptionally beautiful and powerful programs that, however they rewrite, and that's why you get these supernatural-ish effects.
Be right back. I got a phone call coming in.
Nope, no worries.
All right.
So you let me try. I think I'm trying to understand. So basically, what something is happening within cyberspace that is affecting the real world.
No, I'm thinking more Gridman. As in, you go into cyberspace to fight whatever needs to fight because it's disrupting, real world economics, real world transaction. Anything that the internet is falling apart because someone has put in whatever code that we're going to be fighting, and the common writers have to enter the cyberspace as a way to fight it. They're essentially troubleshooters.
I can get that. Let me raise that. Let me raise that by one a little bit further.
Okay.
Because the whole idea of diving into cyberspace and the like, we've had that in plenty of media. But there's one bit of technology that's been making a lot of headways over the last decade. That I think the potential of has not been fully explored yet, at least in this context, and that is taking a more AR-like approach.
Ooh.
Alternate reality.
Oh,
Augmented
okay.
reality.
Back, by the way.
Yeah,
Augmented. Yes.
because through something like augmented reality, let's consider a lot of times when we have the whole going into cyberspace concept, it's usually going into some sort of alternate world via some sort of device. Whether that be jacking in Mega Man Battle Network, whether that be going to the digital world in Digimon, whether it be some version of the web, whether it be whatever the fuck Lawnmower Man was.
But I get where you're coming from. So basically, I'm going to use a token one, and I'm pretty sure I'm off. But the way it was depicted when in Dawn Brothers they would have the glasses on, how the world looked a little different, and they could interact that way. Is that what you're referring to?
It is closer.
Okay.
The other reason I wanted to lean into that kind of thing is the fact that a lot of those attempts that we've seen tend to lean around a more wired kind of internet, and things have gone mostly wireless for years and years now. And I see you, Coops. You ain't slick.
You ain't.
Yeah,
No, that's
hi,
Rick
hi.
over here.
I was about to say, he's over there.
Okay, so with that said, I've actually already got an idea brewing in my head. So if you would mind,
Go ahead.
to quote my old buddy Matt Burkett, let me pitch it to you. So we're going to be entering in a city where technology has been exploding lately, and they recently announced a new AR technology, a kind of visor, not like Google Glass or anything like that, but in a similar vein, but like a special visor that people can wear.
Mhm.
And what's going to be unique about our main writer is that because of several different factors, he hasn't adapted to this new technology. To kind of tie in the tarot theme, let's say he's a street fortune teller by trade. That's the thing he likes to do. But he hasn't been able to make a living off of it yet, and thus can't jump into the new technology, even though he could see that it would probably do him a lot of good. But through a twist of fate, he somehow is given a prototype of of one of these devices that is not connected to the main network, because we're gonna play the whole bad guys are helping run the network type of deal.
Mhm.
That'll help really get things going. Let's make this kind of a thing, a rebel against the system. Not knowing that the system is actually monsters trying to take over the world type shit.
Mhm.
Aruto Hiden, is that you?
Not in a similar vein, but not the same.
Like
He won't be the president of a company this
Is that
time.
you?
like the way it's sounding, it's like just from like how it's impacting everyone. I'm just thinking, okay, this is the weirdest event of Rogue from the Rogue depiction from Mega Man Star Force ever.
And actually,
But-
Star Force is going to be significantly closer to the mark.
Yeah.
I got an idea where we're going. Now I'm happy with this.
See,
Now-
I'm already liking this. Yeah.
Now, I would say, given the technological boom with this city, I would say it is, or visually speaking, I get more of the vibe of a solar punk kind of city.
Yeah.
Ew. Anyway, and also, hello, Mr. Yeho. Sit your hoeing ass down.
Hold on.
You ain't my daddy.
I got a chair. What do you got?
All right. You
I have a
settle
sword.
down. Kids.
Friends, what do you expect?
But I would say, because of what you're essentially dealing with is a technological reincarnation of that progress motif that you see all over the place with any sort of steampunk-like setting, just with more future tech.
Yeah.
Certain technology, certain discoveries have led to a kind of boom. And with our main protagonist, the thing, I know it would be tempting to have him be a bit of a goof or a bit too stuck in his ways about things, but the mindset that I'm going with is, despite him not really catching on when it comes to how fast tech is moving, I look at it as somebody who is a very take his time kind of way. He is the person who would be most likely to take the scenic route. And when it comes to his actual fortune telling, he is very, very good at it. Like a lot of the predictions that he makes ends up coming true.
But not in the way anybody expects.
Yeah. On the downside, he's very, very good at it. So he ends up doing what I had proposed when it came to Lucky years ago, where the whole luck thing is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Where where it'll be like if you predicted that the weather was going to get rainy, in his case it would get rainy at the worst possible time.
Oof.
But in some cases it ends up raining at the best possible time.
And sometimes when it gets rainy, it's not actually rain, it's somebody pouring a bucket of water out their window or something.
Mm-hmm.
it's like you got this. It's like we would see in that special episode. Oh, you get yelled at by everyone you know. You get fired. What else could go wrong? Rain.
No, like here's a good example. I think of what Monk's trying to get at. He makes a prediction saying, "Oh, looks like you're gonna get pretty wet today," and you're thinking, "Oh, it's gonna rain." But no, it's a nice sunny day. There's not a cloud in the sky. You're like, well, how the hell is it gonna rain like that? All of a sudden, the person getting that prediction walks down the street, and all of a sudden, someone accidentally slips and splashes a bucket of water on them.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
the key thing that I'd want to hammer home is that this isn't a case of just really bad luck, like say Ryotaro. It's a case of things going both ways.
Okay.
Somebody who, but it's never just a slight bit. Somebody who can have fortune go their way in one sense and go their way the other. It's for this reason that our protagonist in this instance would have a very go with the flow kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and to further a point you made earlier, instead of him being stuck in his ways, it's going to be more of a case of he's curious about the new technology and how he could use it to further his own fortune telling, but he doesn't have access to it because probably as most fortune tellers, they're not exactly big money makers, so he's not exactly rolling in cash.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you say go with the flow, my immediate thought is, Eiji Hino, is that you?
Well, I also think it's like another thing is like somewhat adding on to the go with the flow. Like he knows, oh, it's getting in on this technological boom would be a good thing for him if he could. But maybe he has his as much as he wants that, he also is he has priorities in front of him that he puts ahead of them.
Yeah, no, that works.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, when it comes to the transformation trinkets and everything else, I don't think that they should be cards, especially since we're using this AR thing.
Yeah,
I think the cards should still have a purpose in that regard, but I don't think they should be the main transformation force. I think what they could be used for is attacks and forms, maybe.
Well,
like
the idea I had was that with like kind of like the cell coins in O's actually that Birth uses to power his attacks. The minor arcana would work for something like that.
And I was thinking like the major arcana would either be forms for the riders, or like something here like the machine rider, whatever the vehicle is for the riders. For this narrative.
Well, I mean, the chariot. Yeah, that's almost a given. Is the chariot going to be a vehicle
that
card?
One, but also it's like the main weapon I would think would, as much as people would, I know some people would question it, I think would be the magician based. But that's just another time. That's another time.
Yeah, that's something we'll get. That's something we'll get into. We haven't gotten to that point. That being said, I know with a lot of times whenever you have a series where there's some new tech that a city's built around, it usually ends up being built by one genius or something like that. The approach that I'm going with is that a collective kind of opened up the floodgates. Not in the sense of them running everything, but their stamp is on a lot of things. But more importantly, one of because the question that we need to answer is how exactly they would get a hold of essentially a prototype or a advanced model, some sort of special model of this kind of tech.
This is going to be really cliche, has happened in Kamen Rider before, but makes the most sense when we're dealing with a Destiny/Terra themed Kamen Rider. One of the upper echelon has had a change of heart, is being chased by the rest of them to capture and or kill him, and passes off his or hers prototype
that he
advanced form, whatever you want to call it. And the reason for that is I'm thinking of the major arcana as the villains themselves, and I'm thinking of them specifically as the major arcana reversed.
Ooh.
See, here's where I'm going to actually give you a counter idea, because instead of it being one overall group, what if there's 4 major departments, or basically 4 sub-factions within the main group, each of them representing the 4 groups of minor arcana, and the leader of one of them, and I'm going to go ahead and throw out the swords, decides to change, have a change of heart, and gives his prototype up. Because using the swords cards, using like the Knight of Swords, would actually help lead to giving him a weapon.
Yeah, I would say the minor arcana provide a nice framework, and I'm reminded of how we had one Sentai season that made the attempt. We've had a few Sentai seasons that have made the attempt to have multiple villain factions. But the problem with a lot of them it was a case of of them just replacing each other or playing musical chairs when there's only one chair.
Yeah.
It's like
I think Go Sager would probably be a good example of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it attempted having multiple factions, but one faction bows out, then another one takes over.
You want to know a toku that does it well though? Another Sentai, Bokenger did multiple.
Oh,
villains
yeah.
Yeah,
did
Bokenger
really
was a
well.
good one on that regard.
Yeah,
But
Bokenger's good.
that's why I'm throwing out the idea of it being a corporation, a conglomerate, and each of these subdivisions of that same conglomerate. So you can have the main, like the CEO is the BBEG.
yeah.
Well, let's actually let me expand upon that then. I'm still thinking that the upper echelons, say the board of directors, the president, CEO, etc.
The Steno, they are the 4 heavenly kings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go.
Are going to be major arcana users, and they're going to be reversed major arcana.
Yeah.
You know, in that regard, I think that works. I think having like the main conglomerate, not all of the major arcana, but I think almost all of them will have I think the way to put it is, each of them will have, everyone in the upper echelons will have major arcana, but I don't think all the major arcana are going to be exclusive to those upper echelons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a C-suite only usually consists of about 10 people, so they'd only have 10 major arcana.
Yeah,
And then we'll say
we
that
can
the
easily pick
CEO
out a few
has
of
the
those that
world.
work for that.
Yep.
In this case, I would go with the conglomerate is a collection of four businesses that got merged under one person's banner, and those four houses essentially, or those 4 estates, whichever you want to call them, each of them represents one of the 4 suits. So
Yeah.
The 4 Zybotsus.
yeah.
Mm.
So you've got one. You've got one that's the suit of cups. You've got one that's the suit of swords. One that's the suit of coins, and one that's the suit of wands.
And if we're gonna, I mean, we don't need to go into super pedantic detail about what each one did. It's clear that they'll thematically be connected to which suit that they're connected to. For example, swords maybe being a military contractor or whatever,
Or like or defense, something along, or security, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
They deal with like physical conflict in some way, shape, or form.
The key.
While the court, yeah.
The key is that each of them is consistent with each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes this even work even better is based on how those 4 suits work. They each represent different elements, so you could incorporate those elements into their abilities, and later on into our writers' abilities.
And
Tentacles being earth, swords being air, cups being water, and wands being fire.
Yeah. I would say given that. Now I know we said that we weren't going to directly use cards as the trinket, but Zan, what did you have in mind instead?
So, cards are used like I was saying, like the cell coins that Birth used in O's to power his different weapons. But with the actual main trinket, it's the belt is going to be more like, what am I thinking of here? My brain is trying to build something here, because this is based on the AR. You can only use the belt while using the actual AR in the first place, because you have to pull the program.
I just realized what would be a perfect
Design?
visual rep to use as a base.
Mm-hmm.
Goggles?
No,
Glasses?
the comp unit. The comp unit from early Shin Megami Tensei.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh, here's a thought. What if the belt was the main system for the AR technology? Meaning everyone's gonna have what looks like a belt, but only the prototype and the ones that the generals will be using have the ability to access the cards in that particular way.
Yep.
Yeah, and just for a bit of reference, and I'm actually just going to link the
ARM
the
terminal.
wiki.
Yeah, I saw the ARM terminal,
Yep.
Yeah,
but which
Like, I would say it's a good idea, but at the same time, and that's more.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
word for word. And
Fair enough.
but more of that concept of
Those comps are specifically from Devil Summoner Monk, or
Yeah.
Devil Children, I should say.
Yeah, that's the devil trick.
the one that I had in mind is the handheld / goggles setup from SMT2 and IF.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which they tend to have mounted on their arm and connected to their goggles. But in this case, we'd also have the belt as the I think that in this case, the belt would be the unit that connects them to the network.
Yeah.
They still have the arm unit because that's how they type, and the goggles are and such are there so that they can see the AR world. But they actually have to have the belt to connect to the main servers, which means that on the belt there's at least going to be one or two buttons of some sort so that we can have our hitting the belt thing for final attacks, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm envisioning. Yeah, we have the belt as the main, like the processor of this whole system, and the connection to the network. You can have an ARM unit, but here's the thing. This is another reason why I think having the swords group be a military unit. I think that was a great idea, and here's why. The actual rider suit could have been a military experiment that they were working on to create the military force within the company. And this being a prototype, it could be a unique design, hence why it would be the rider suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So instead of just connecting to the network, it would also access the rider form as a defensive.
Which would allow for somebody who's just a fortune teller to be able to hold their own, much like how Aruto had that speed learning when it came to the basics of using the 0-1 system.
Yeah, it would be its own form of is that basically you would be, or there I should say, is that's the satellite.
Yeah.
It would basically automatically download fighting combat mechanics into his brain through the AR system, or teach him through the AR system.
Mm-hmm. And because would you have the AI as a supporting character of it?
Then we'd have Izu, and I think that'd be copying a little too much from 0-1. I don't think it would be an actual character. I think it would just be if you want to have an AI system involved, because they're going to want to put AI in there because it's the modern day. You can just have it be just an automatic speaking, just a speaking voice off to the side, and just
Jarvis?
speak directly to him. Something like Jarvis, yeah. That's.
I would say Jarvis to the point that it's the same voice that you would hear in the actual belt when you transform.
Oh.
But the big thing there is that we don't really want to do another Izu or have the idea of a net navi, aka land and hub.
Yeah.
Etc. If we want a supporting character that's going to help our erstwhile fortune teller, let's make it his only consistent customer.
Let's tie it back.
There we go.
I was going to say,
what if the person in the company that changes their mind is that consistent customer, is that loyal customer?
Mm-hmm.
He was somebody who was a little naive about things, or just relied way too much on fortune telling to get him anywhere, and he really liked how our main character kept giving him good fortunes. So when he was thinking about who to drop the belt off to, that was the first person that came to his mind.
That'd work.
Yeah.
Tie it all together.
Like that, or at the very least, a little deviate of that. Maybe not entirely all of his luck. Like he has stuff to back it up, but the number of interactions he had were with our main character was positive, but it's not fully reliable because I don't see that working for like what would be almost the assistant slash mentor for our main character.
The approach that I see with that is that for that
I was thinking more like I was thinking kind of like my apologies. The Kengo to our the mentor would be like the person who gives him the belt is Kengo to our main character's Gentaro, so to speak.
No, I don't think we need that.
no.
Okay.
What I'm seeing there, because this guy is, ex C-suite and or at least ex high level manager of some sort. It's giving him the system. The actual conglomerate's trying to basically kill this guy because he escaped with one of their prototype systems that's not supposed to go to public use, and also he doesn't like what they're doing anymore.
Yeah.
This is
No,
gonna
if
be
you
more
want to talk
like,
about
I was gonna think that this mentor character, if he is going to stick around, he's going to be in hiding, and he's just going to teach our main character here more and more how to use the actual programming side of this system. That's the reason the arm unit is there for the typing, because again, these tarot-based powers are essentially extremely complex programs that interact with the system, and that's why they're so powerful and do so many nearly supernatural things.
And I think another cool way you can work with that is that even though he's been kicked out of the company, he knows enough or has talked to enough people to learn how to backdoor his way into the system, and thus can learn more, upgrade our writer with more abilities and powers as the series goes on. Up until at some point, inevitably, you're gonna have to kill him off.
Yeah,
I just realized that there's one person that can be used that we can use as a starting point, but deviate a little bit to have him be a present, but not there because he's still a wanted man. Steinbelt.
The Steinbelt.
Yeah,
works.
that's.
And
I was thinking like Jarvis mixed with Steinbelt for the voice, but yeah, for what we were talking about earlier. But yeah.
But the big thing is that the way I was seeing it is to add on to what John already said about, he backdoored his way in and knows stuff. That's the entire reason he turned against the company. He backdoored his way into some place that only the C-suite is supposed to have access to, and saw what they really have in mind. And that's why he's trying to get out. This also makes him kind of a meddler, and also a little naive, and gives him some faults to balance up the fact that he's clearly a genius programmer.
Yeah.
Plus, this whole thing of turning against the evil conglomerate is very much in line with Kamen Rider's history. I mean, that's how the original Kamen Rider started, is a member of the evil faction had a change of heart, helped out the hero, gave him his power, and now look where it led them.
I would also add in, sorry, carbonation, that even that this C-suite member, this person who had the rank of let's go with Knight of Swords, i.e., he was in the C-suite, but he was at the bottom end of the top, essentially.
He's an upper management character, but not quite C-suite. He's more like an executive assistant.
Yeah.
But he is, after his first appearance, he goes into hiding. But at the same time, he has a lot of friends in a lot of different places, and a lot of people who even if it's just for an episode or for longer, are willing to help out or willing to share with him some of the caches that he had hidden all over the place.
Mm. And he's also constantly backdooring into the conglomerate again.
Constantly backdooring. Or it's like
just to see how far their plans are along. And that's also how he might get inspiration for new things to help our main character program. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they have these really cool new things that they're doing here, here, and here. Try doing this, that, and the other, and maybe it'll help with some of the things that you've been experiencing lately. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I also think like maybe like he still has like I would say like if he's up there, he probably has a bit of some connections, not just from the programming side. So he might be able to. He has a little bit of an information network from probably like the lower numbers of each of the other areas, or at least of the swords.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because he probably still has to keep track of it. There's probably some stuff that he won't be able to get through just hacking. So there's that.
But, I kind of these just came to mind right now, and I know
And
we're not really going into.
Hang on, we got bots.
God
Do we?
damn it.
Right.
Oh, so we do. Tarot Destroyer.
The irony of it all.
Yeah.
Tarot Destroyer, that's the name of the rider kick. Okay, but you're actually useful for something, even though it's never going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
To be fair, I was also thinking more of like calling it like basing on one of the cards, calling it Judgment.
Oh, that actually will work. Tarot Judgment.
To be honest, while we aren't quite at this point yet, I did get some names that came to mind for various levels of mooks and bosses.
Go ahead.
For the actual mooks, we're going to use the lowest value card in any suit, which is the 2s, and I was thinking that we just call them the deuces.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then for like our normal monster of the week monsters, because the major arcana are going to be big bad general type people. But I was thinking that those could be either the kings and queens of the suits, technically. Whereas something like how the mook monsters get like a mid-season upgrade to where they're not quite mookish.
Yep.
In most cases,
Yeah.
those would be the knaves.
Ah.
Knaves being 8s.
No, knaves are the suit under knight. It goes knave, knight, queen, king.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, of course, the head of every, like the guys who are above the kings and queens, are monsters of the week, are the aces, the 4 aces of each division.
Mm.
Yeah.
I would say the kings should be the actual leaders of the groups, but the aces are like their best guys.
The dragon? Okay. I could do that one too.
Yeah.
The kings have their aces, and then like the queens and knights are our monsters of the week, which is why one knight is now missing. And the knaves are our mid-season mook upgrade.
Yeah, and I just realized that there's
generals are major arcana.
one bit with tarot history that us doing a tarot themed rider makes it perfect. The most common form of tarot deck that everyone is more familiar with is the Rider Waite tarot.
So horse themed for our main hero in some way.
I don't think he needs a horse theme.
No.
I honestly think that with he'll have sword as a theme because Knight of Swords.
Yeah.
But I also think that since he's a fortune teller and does the divination thing, he should have moon and stars as well.
Ooh.
At least smaller moons and stars on his uniform, like not the actual the star or the moon or the sun card, but although those might be the first 3 arcana he gets as ultimates.
Ooh.
I do think
like those could be the 3 attacks that he primarily uses for whatever rider kick, rider punch, and rider slash he has.
yeah. And
Or
as
shooting,
far
hitting.
as far as naming a as far as naming the finisher, I know some might raise an eyebrow on this, but there was a part of me that was actually thinking of calling his various finishers trumps. I.e. the way a trump card is elevated in most games.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's...
I'm not sure that works in tarot though.
Yeah.
Actually, guys, I'm getting called away. I may or may not be back.
Mhm.
All right.
Let's see.
Uh, but
Oh, now we have this unfinished pile of crackers here.
Oh, you stop. But yeah, and already I'm looking at the major arcana and seeing how a lot of these could be turned into the big bads. You know, the obvious ones: the Empress,
Yeah.
the Emperor. How Devil and Death could also be considered. Could also be put in that one.
I'm
Yeah.
still saying the CEO, our biggest big bad, has the world.
now,
I was thinking that, but at the same time, I also think the world would also be a perfect use for like the writer's ultimate form.
I was thinking-
The Wheel of Fortune for the ultimate form.
No,
since
No,
we're
I
on
was-
since we're on that,
We'll
here,
get-
here's what I'm thinking. Any sort of is that the major arcana would be used for three things in particular. Forms in some sense, weapons and equipment. Minor arcana would be enhancements to them.
Yeah.
Consider how in Kamen Rider Double, Philip's Gaia memories tended to primarily provide the element. Or if I have to use another example, consider the God cards in the DSS system in Circle of the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Circle of
Go ahead.
Mhm.
I was going.
And I see what Axlerman is pointing. Death would probably work as a neutral party one, since Death is usually one of the better arcana to get in some readings, since it's about change. We will get to that, but I think that if there's any card that is as cliche as it is, there's one card that I feel should be the initial base.
I think it's the Fool.
It has to be the Fool.
Because it usually symbolizes a journey one takes. So
The beginning of a journey one
Mhm.
takes.
Yep. So it makes sense. It's also the beginning form.
And it's
That's also why I was leaning towards the world being the ultimate form, because of its use as fulfillment, completion.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
But the reason I think that the world should be in the hands of the big bad is because that's the fulfillment and completion he wants. The world in his hands.
I think it should be both.
You already kind of solved that issue with that
Wheel of
implication
Fortune.
that a lot of the cards that the villains are using or a lot of the tarot that the villains are using are reversed.
Yep.
Oh,
But
That's
big
why I was
thing
thinking
is
it'd be both.
compromise. Yeah, like compromise, Zan. What if both of them have the world?
That's what I was saying.
What if our guy, as his final act before his death, creates a copy of the world for our hero to use, where the big bad will use it reversed because they haven't reached their completion yet, haven't reached their ultimate goal. Our hero will use it as the complete form, the fulfillment of his journey.
The problem is, I feel that now we're abandoning the theme of the hero. The Wheel of Fortune fits him thematically. That's what I'm saying.
I get where you're coming from with that, Zan. If not, and I'm going to take a page from like a lot of the recent Toku, where for some reason they'll have like what essentially it's design wise is basically the original suit, but they give it like this enhanced name, making it feel like, oh, it is powerful, even though
Just
design-wise,
because it's been
yeah.
done, just because that's been done before, doesn't mean
Uh-huh.
we have to.
I
Actually,
understand.
here's a
Actually,
thought. Here's
the
a
Fool's
thought
World.
with Will. Here's a thought with Wheel of Fortune. Let's be because of its use as change, and also reversed, it means no control. Let's take the idea of the Wheel of Fortune being a have a randomness factor,
Range vent.
where sometimes it could give them a massive power boost and give them a use of different abilities, but every once in a while, it accidentally gets reversed and becomes a berserker form.
Yeah, so I can get that.
Yeah, but
If not,
going forward, because I'd like to go top to bottom on the major arcana. With the magician, I feel like that is, if here the mindset that I have is a kind of rule of three, since one of the easiest card setups, one of the easiest spreads with tarot is past, present, future. And we already have a couple writers that we can build around that have a rule of three. But I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go with the one that had it for a while and then didn't use it as often, especially late series, and that was the rule of three with Saber.
Dragon. Then like I'm trying to get the three.
In Saber,
Okay.
it was Brave Dragon, Storm Eagle, and Sayuki.
Right.
But the point that I'm going with this is that, as I mentioned before, the idea we're going with is major arcana are forms and equipment, minor arcana are enhancements. That's why I brought up the dual setup system from Circle of the Moon. In that regard, the first form that he ends up getting is a mixture of the Knight of Swords and the Fool.
I can see that.
In that, the court cards would have a higher impact than the numbered cards.
Yeah.
Like stuff like deuces would just be the equivalent to sell medals. But the magician, I look at I feel like the magician should be. I don't think it should be a form. I do think it should be a weapon, some sort of multi-form weapon.
That's his right arm, the sword, gun, whatever he uses for it. Like that should be his main weapon.
And here's how I think it should work. This is where we should have a dual card setup, where the first card being a major arcana determines what ability he uses, but the suit card can be a secondary card to determine what that form takes, what that ability takes form of. So you use the magician with a sword card, you get a sword. That's why he starts with the Knight of Swords.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, he can add stuff like pentacles and cups and wands. Wands could easily be used in that regard for that, giving a fire staff.
Yeah, as far I think the tricky thing with that is making sure that we're not just repeating what was done with Blade.
That's kind of why I think the dual card setup actually kind of counteracts that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was just individual cards with individual abilities. Here, we're mixing and matching with a base ability and an enhancement to give it whatever form it should take.
Yeah. But in that regard, like with the Knight of Swords, I wouldn't want to do the exact same kind of sword that Blade had, for instance.
No.
I honestly think that should be, if as cliche as this might be, and as a little close to the mark as this may be, I honestly think the Knight of Swords should be doing sword and board.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, make it a proper knight, sword and shield. Yeah, I see it.
Mm-hmm. But in that same vein, I think when it comes to the wands, it should be. I know it'd be tempting to have it be a staff, but I was actually thinking something a little more one-handed. But when it comes to the High Priestess, for instance, I feel like the High Priestess should be illusions. In the kind of in the same vein as the Luna Gaia memory.
Yeah, no, I see it. Also, there is one other factor we're forgetting about that we're going to need to make sure we keep in mind when coming through these major arcana.
Mm-hmm.
Secondary writers.
Secondary and possibly even tertiary writers.
And I've already am going through. I have, if we're going with the set of 3, like the way I'm looking at it's like the secondary, if not at least the tertiary, should at least have 3 arcana, and that's like they don't get the mix and match property, but they get to focus exclusively on the abilities of certain arcana, and like they can use it to a better extent. I would feel.
Here, the mindset that I have with this is, as far as a secondary writer goes, I think that their approach should be more of a bounty hunter, one who, to counteract the whole go with the flow, this is somebody who has a very gambler's mentality, and because of that, they exclusively use minor arcana, but are using them in these more freewheeling combinations. Something akin to a more freeform caster.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing the primary and secondary, they're doing whole hands worth of different minor arcana, because they've either been collecting them or they've been essentially hunting different monsters of the week for a while.
I can see that. That'd be fun.
Maybe.
Because the big difference and the big conflict is the fact that our primary writer is a very go with the flow kind of thing, whereas our secondary is far more of a risk taker, because their mindset is, if you don't risk big, you won't win big.
I only have one issue with where you're coming from with this, and this still goes back into from at this point in the narrative, from where we're going in setting up the world. The main reason our main character is able to our writer is able to transform is because he basically is allowed to enter all the equipment he has is originally from this corporation that is the big bad. So how would our secondary writer get it? Would he also be a former employee? Would he have just come across it?
No, I think he's still an employee.
Oh, he's an employee. He got his in a bet.
He's a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I would say he's a contractor, and that's the guy we can make Death. I know that the suggestion that Death was a.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's still gonna need a major arcana for a transformation monk. He just isn't gonna use any of its powers.
And I'd say Death would be the fitting one, since Death is the 13th arcana, and I would say that he is somebody who does have a strong belief in luck, but only in the sense of like I said, a gambler's mentality.
Yep, my luck is what I make of it, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And
most gamblers
this just gave me an idea for a tertiary writer.
I'm not sure we need a tertiary writer, but go ahead.
Well, maybe we don't, but let me throw this out there for you and see what you think.
Mm-hmm.
What if our ex-employee on the run realizes that he needs to defend himself and possibly even help out the hero, and decides to jig up a writer belt of his own, and his major arcana, considering how this all started, the Hermit?
I could certainly go with it.
I mean, he's going to be on his own, pretty much running from, hiding from everything, so he's got the reversed aspect, but also in the upright form, a search for truth.
Yep.
Well, also enlightenment and self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the Hermit would be a perfect form for them. And,
Yeah.
and of course, that's how he comes across the big bad and gets killed.
We do think now we've established that some forms would be upgrades, some would be equipment. We've already nailed that. We've already made it very clear the chariot is how we get the vehicle, which
Yep,
does
and
bring the
right.
question of what sort of bike do you see our riders using? Do you see him using more of a crotch rocket like Kabuto, more of a dirt bike like say Kuga or Faiz? Do you see him using a lean pack like Hibiki's Valkyrie Rune? What sort of bike do you see them using?
Honestly, this like we've already determined, this is a futuristic place. He would likely be riding something that's a street crotch rocket, just because that's how the chariot would be programmed.
Yeah.
So tuner but bike form.
Yeah, I can go with that. And as far as our secondary, I think they would have something akin to a dirt bike.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now we do need to address the arcana of the Shiteno, as we put it, Monk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that the dragon, the Shiteno's lieutenant, or the CEO's lieutenant, his right-hand man, should be Judgment.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I can go with that.
I can go with that. In the same vein, I think some of the other Chitano would have the star, the moon, and the sun.
So the last four
The last
before the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those last 5 cards should
Should be our bad
represent
guys.
represent our bad guys. Like, is because the star, yeah, you can use that to represent faith in their process. Faith.
The
in
star
their
would be a
goal.
zealot.
Yes, star would be a zealot. The moon, would be more focused on intuition. He'd probably be the more.
The moon, I'd say, would be a silver tongue kind of person.
Yeah, no, I can go with that.
Somebody who would probably study in the Dubovsky school of lying.
The sun would be like the face of the company. Like, what's her name from Fives?
Yeah.
Oh, I get you. I would say,
Yeah,
like,
you know who it's
Smart
I think
lady.
Smart lady. I would
Smart
say
lady. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
maybe like someone who's there, but actually, I want to double down the smart lady aspect, like the mascot of the company. Like, I would say she's aware, but of everything, but it's again like smart lady. She has no control over it. It's kind of like the mascot.
Yeah, but to coincide with the reverseness of it, she's two-faced. Like, she's all happy and bubbly on camera, but behind the scenes, she's a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
The way I have them labeled, just because these are always good labels. Our star is the Zealot. Our moon is the Snake. Our sun is the Two-Faced. And our Judgment is the Dragon.
Yeah. No, I go with that.
But I'm just using those very generic trope terms.
Yeah, and I would say the motif of the Wheel of Fortune that could easily fulfill the role of that mini arc of what's been referred to as the Berserk form.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the thing with Berserk forms is that they are eventually tamed through some sort of arc.
And they're usually purified and made into an extremely strong and or ultimate form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like as much as say Fang Joker or the other Fang forms that we didn't officially see until the manga were Berserk forms. That was only at first, and it was mostly because of just the nature of the Fang memory.
Hazard form and build.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Oh,
hazard
here's an
form
idea.
for that matter. But
what if? Let me throw out an idea for you. What if it starts out as the Wheel of Fortune? You know, the change, the lack of control, but eventually they reprogram it and it transforms into justice.
I was thinking that exact thing, and I would think it would be. This may be a little me thing, but it's, I don't know. Maybe he goes through something. Maybe even one of the minor arcana, in some way, gets the power, gets something along a form almost along the lines of the reverse side of justice, and is something in there that allows him to finally turn Wheel of Fortune into justice.
No, I have a different idea, and it's going to play with the whole reversed world thing you guys were talking about earlier, and it's also going to remember that ultimate forms tend to break the convention we've seen over time because they're ultimate. They're meant to be bigger than what was. So first of all, what happens before our mentor character / tertiary writer dies? He does get a piece of the coding of the world, but not the full piece. But using it and melding it with the Wheel of Fortune stabilizes the Wheel of Fortune and pairs it with justice. He no longer uses a minor arcana and a major arcana. He uses Wheel of Fortune and justice at the same time for his ultimate.
Okay. That, you know what? We can work with that. That makes.
The Wheel of Fortune has to do with destiny and fate and change, and justice has to do with karmic justice and karmic retribution, truth and honesty. Both of these things have to be in place for him to change and save the world, essentially.
No, I like it.
Yeah, as far as other cards and what ones might be forms, I'm thinking one of them would be strength. In fact, I'd have strength as a kind in the same vein as like the 10-second ability in Fize's Axel form.
Yeah, a power boost.
It's essentially a short-term limiter removal. Whereas I think the one that comes out of our tertiary's sacrifice, at least one of them, and something that can be a component to creating the world, would be the Hanged Man.
I was thinking the same thing. The Hangman being about sacrifice, and even in reverse, needless sacrifice. That could be a great plot element. It's a one-time use card, but it gives them a huge boost in power, but at the cost of their life.
In the same vein, I think that I think that a upgrade for the secondary probably would be one like the Tower.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
Sudden upheaval, yeah, and broken pride, oh yeah.
Whereas, and I think for a main one of the other potential upgrades, a mid or late season, not final, would be Temperance. Especially since our protagonist has had a very go with the flow attitude.
Yeah.
Now with
another one I was just looking at, the Lovers could be used for like a combo attack, where our main and secondary writers can do a team up attack together.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, as far as the weapon for our secondary, I think as a bit of a twist on things, their approach should be. My mind keeps saying some sort of writer equivalent of a sawed off.
Well, Monk, you said he was a bounty hunter, and you said he's going to be throwing around loads of minor arcana cards.
Yeah.
I think that the way he should fight is no set weapon.
I think
Whatever weapon he wants to use, he pulls out a minor arcana card, slams it in, it manifests the weapon he needs right at that time, and he uses it, and he tosses it away and pulls out another one.
Why am I thinking of Archer?
Because actually, I didn't take that from Archer, but now that you've got it, you're kind of right. Shiro Emiya does fit, but I was thinking more a different character from an entirely different novel. So his whole thing was he went through battlefields just picking up whatever was on the battlefield and killing people with it. And when it broke, it went on. You could also use Goblin Slayer here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking, but
Though
I was
I
also
will
think-
say,
you go first.
I will
Sean.
say if he uses a sword card, just because it's death, it has not a full size, but maybe twin sickles.
Could see that. And then the sawed-off shotgun would be his wand's weapon.
Oh yeah. There's a part of me that's like, just because like how it is, like if the guy's a little unhinged, like just have one of the forms like be a bare no weapon. He has to go bare knuckles.
But
Oh, he definitely would. It's just that's when he isn't using any cards. He's like, I don't even need cards to deal with you, and punches them to death.
I would also say that unlike the other thing, since we're going with the whole gambler's mindset and bounty hunter, is that he has absolutely no concept of fair play. He's not outright villainous, but he can and will play dirty if he feels he needs to.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I would say he's more willing to take a lesson from Yuki Guy in a fight, aka crotch shot.
Crotch shot is not exactly what I meant when it came to play dirty. I mean, he is the type who would lead a monster into say an ambush, or would you could easily have one scene where he ends up challenging the main writer to a fight, but he didn't tell the main writer that the area that he had set up was full of so many traps. It's like a D&D dungeon from that guy. You know, landmines, tripwires,
It's the Tomb of Horrors? What?
surprise boulders or rocks falling on you, all of that stuff.
Well, I would say that in that case, since he, gambler's mindset, willing to do whatever it takes to to play dirty. Monk, we know his catchphrase then, don't we? Winner takes all.
Yeah, and I know some might say that seems a little bit close to Beast, who had that whole pinch and a chance thing, but I don't think it's the same, for one, and two, I'm not gonna have him be obsessed with mayonnaise. But
Oh God, no.
I do think that our secondary would be a bit of a glutton. By that I say you could have the gag of him having the same kind of appetite that the weather dope hound had, that Isaka had.
Not a glutton, Monk, because he's a gambler. He's also someone who's going to spend his money like water. Let's just make him hedonistic in general.
Yeah.
Why do I get the feeling that if he could get away with it, he would have that luxury variant of Drive?
Oh God, yeah, high speed.
Oh, Lupin.
Mm-hmm.
No, high speed.
Oh, high
High
speed.
speed.
Ah.
Type high speed.
No,
Yeah.
but it's like, I feel like he would also be the kind of person that it's like, if like he goes to an event, there's like, oh, you got like random chance you get like a super. I'm always talking for this example. It's like he goes by a vendor and they say, test your luck, see, and like get a pack of them. They'll have like a display of takoyaki, and if you grab one, your hope that it's not the super spicy one, but he's willing to take those type of risks. And it's like it's Reaper Pepper.
Like,
Yeah.
the
I
big
would
thing. Go
Sorry.
ahead, John.
I was gonna say, I think it's in the reverse of our main writer, where the main writer will often have good luck, but not always. I think the reverse should be the case here, where he has good luck moments, but more often than not, he gets unlucky because he takes too many damn risks.
When he doesn't usually rely on luck. He's a gambler, but he gambles because he knows that he can make his own luck by playing dirty.
Yeah.
So like if we were going to give him a full quote, because every writer has their own full quote. Whether it's loading the dice or stacking the deck, winner takes all.
Pretty much. And I will note when I'm bringing up this whole idea of a gambler's mentality, Zan, obviously I'm thinking of Akagi.
Yep.
The thing is, it's not any proper gambler in any work of fiction is aware that it is as much of a psychological game as it is a game.
Mm-hmm.
The best poker players are the ones who not only know the odds, but also know how to fuck with people to make the odds work in their favor.
The best poker players do not play the game, they play the people.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually a statement from multiple professional poker players.
Oh yeah.
And he most definitely has that mindset. He just has the problem of being a bit too greedy for his own good.
So Monk, what you're saying is he doesn't know when to hold him, or know when to fold him, or know when to walk away and know when to run.
You walked into that one, Monk.
Yes, I did.
Zan, I approve.
John, do you have the button?
Which one?
Rake.
Sideshow Bob.
Oh, yeah. I got that one on standby. Where's my rake button? Here it is. It's over here. Boom.
You're welcome, Monk.
But
Rest in peace, Kenny Rogers.
in that regard, if he did have some sort of default, for whatever reason, I'm thinking of this unholy combination between a revolver and Gene Starwin's caster.
You just want him to shoot giant lasers from a revolver, Monk. Admit it.
Yes.
I'm fine with that. I'm entirely fine with that, especially since when we mentioned that he was Death, but that he's also a bounty hunter, I was already thinking Sheriff Death.
Yeah.
He's wearing a 10-gallon hat and shit.
I wouldn't go full cowboy because I don't want to try and out cowboy the only good character in Ninja.
Star Ninja? What? The only ninja that exists? What are you talking about?
The guy who was so good at being a ninja, he crossed over and became a ninja in other things. Or that one-off character in that American Ninja episode of Kaku Ranger.
Oh yeah. No, I was thinking more like if not, he doesn't wear the hat. I would say in either Sevilla or the rider design, the parka, or whatever the cloak he would have, the shawl. I think that would be the main thing for him, design wise, like one of the most key features.
I could see that, and this because I know that Edna Mode had that whole thing of no capes, but if I'm being honest, my response to her is, well, good for you, you're still wrong. Because when it comes to our secondary, I do think he would be the one who'd most likely have the scarf that is an icon throughout the franchise. Our primary having some sort of skirting to have a bit of that fortune teller motif. And there's the the one of the main writers that I'm thinking of to draw upon when it comes to design, if I were to have this suit designed, honestly, would be Wizard.
Ooh. I get yeah. Yep.
I'm not saying a 1-for-1, but definitely in that direction. And when it comes to our secondary, I don't think that they should have a whole lot in the way of upgrades or alternate equipment, but more of turning their primary arms into one that can hold a bigger hand, as it were. And in actuality,
more Arcana on it.
Yeah. In actuality, instead of it being some sort of gun, I'm actually thinking of having it steal some notes from a dual disc.
Ooh.
Not as a 1-for-1, but in terms of having those different slots for cards.
Yeah.
And at
that point, now we're doing the what was it called? Hold on, I have to look up the name again.
And well, it wouldn't be the first time that I experimented with an alternate take on a dual disc. I showed you that sketch from a while back, Zan.
Yeah, what you're talking about then is a Valva Rusher with more card slots.
Yes.
Van, please post that in GeekWatch so we can get an idea what you're talking about.
You didn't watch Gotchard? Valvarad's personal weapon? The one that does also his transformation device? The Valva Rusher?
Actually, I think a mix between that and that extra sword that Blade's King form had would be the ideal setup.
Mm-hmm. And in my defense for your question, I'm going back to school full-time and working full-time. Do you think I have that much time available to watch Gotchard when it didn't hook me on the start?
Skill issue.
Moving right along. I know there was the motif for the longest time of one of the covers for writers being working at some sort of cafe, or that being used as a base. I do think that as tempting as that would be, the direction I would lean into is that our protagonist is more of a odd jobs guy.
Yeah, like I said, fortune telling does not make the big bucks, so he's gonna do whatever he can to make a little side cash.
Which, fortunately, because of the fact that I'd imagine he's been doing this for a while, so he has a variety of skills that he knows how to do. Much in the same way as how Godai had 2,000 skills.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those skills are actually skills and not just, oh, he got lucky with his incredible luck?
The vibe I'm going for is that he's been doing odd jobs in one form or another for a long time, so he's picked up things.
And that adaptability
again,
is why he's
AG,
able to use the
is that
system
you?
so easily.
It just feels like more AG Hino in his odd jobs and go with the flow attitude.
Or what? In a sense, but AG was far more of a hermit. This particular guy isn't a hermit. He's just very practical.
Yeah.
I can see that.
He's not hopping between places, only caring about having tomorrow's money and tomorrow's underwear. Because the big reason that I wanted to lean into that notion is even though there's been a whole lot of advances in this particular city, and I do think, much like Futo, it should be a named place with its own character.
Right.
There's still low tech things that need to be handled, and because of that, he's never going to be short on work.
Mm-hmm.
And it also provides an excellent way to to meet up with the numerous contacts and numerous caches that our mentor character has throughout this city.
Ah.
And in doing so, you're able to better establish the character of the city itself. Its numerous districts, the people within them, the fashion styles within them, all of that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
You know, everything fits together like a nice little puzzle piece. And
Right.
this is also this also ties into our secondary being a very dirty fighter, as I mentioned before, because he's using what he knows about this city against his targets.
Right.
You know, the whole everything kind of fits together like that. And I will note in terms of, like, if I had any say in terms of how the thing would sound, I'm not sure what the genre is for this, but I've seen a growing amount of musicians who are mixing classical with electronic. That is the sound motif I'd want to go with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, mixing either imagine mixing like shamisen music with synthwave or something like that, or mixing a hurdy-gurdy with electronic.
Monk, you're looking for electro swing.
Yeah,
I was just after ask, was like, so it would not, if they had a metal event there, we would be expecting Psy to make an appearance.
I'm assuming we're talking the black metal act that came out of Tokyo.
Yes.
I think that might be pushing it a little too far. Look, Psy is messed up.
Isn't that most black metal, Monk?
And Psy is as close to OG as you can get when it comes to black metal, so you're not technically wrong. But in that same vein, I do think that in the episode format, each one would open up with him doing his own reading.
Oh,
Which is my way of saying when it comes to the more episodic parts, you have Chekhov's gun established in the first minute. Yeah, and I know certain series had the recurring motif when it came to episodes. What started as the counting gag, but evolved past it because, well, they ran out of ways to do the counting gag. Even though some people really try and stretch it these days.
sorry, folks, that died with Forze.
It really did.
No, it's like the way you were speaking earlier, like the thing you're talking about, like at the beginning. I'm just thinking him basically pulling something along the lines of what every episode of Build started with.
Do you remind me of the naming motif that Build had for its episodes?
I was not thinking the naming motif. I was thinking more like the last time, like when they would give like a recap of the previous episode.
Yeah, the mindset that I had was again some sort of fortune telling at the beginning that ends up playing out before that particular arc is done. Again, putting Chekhov's gun on the table right at the start. So you can imagine a scene of him getting up, looking at the first card on the deck, and saying, and saying, it's probably going to be very busy. And later on you can have it that maybe he gets stuck in a crowded area.
Sometimes it could just be an off gag, and sometimes it could be related to the main plot.
Yeah.
Like he reads a fortune and he comes up with a thing, and then sometimes it could just be a random thing that happens probably at the end of the episode as a gag, but then sometimes it could be related to the plot of the episode and make it a big deal. Sometimes it could even lead to major developments.
Mm-hmm. But because of that, and I know we said we didn't want to have cards as the physical appearance, but I would be fine with having some sort of device that looks akin to an SD card. I know someone will say, didn't 01 do that? Not really.
Yeah, considering the size of hard drive keys, that's not really equivalent.
I would say more memory banks.
Yeah.
Like I would just go with in fact the reference that I would use for this sort of SD card like approach would be the cards that were in B Fighter Kabuto. The main reason I say that is because going with cards straight would not. I don't think it would fit this kind of setting that we've developed.
Well, and the big thing is that with the whole AR thing and the fact that we've got the programming side of it, I think the visual representation is the card comes up in the AR display, but the actual thing he's doing is loading the program by like typing it into the ARM terminal and hitting enter.
I could see that.
I would say I think that'd be a little too slow though, because the amount of time it'd take to type something out, even if you're a quick typer, would take too long in the middle of combat. Maybe have some stuff preloaded.
That's what I was thinking of like the kind of SD cards you would see for a camera.
I could see
I was thinking that
that would be loaded into the ARM terminal rather than the belt.
I was thinking also, yeah, like the ARM terminal, it can hold that. I want to up your thing for instead of I don't know, maybe an SD card. Along the lines of an SD card, I think that's the way it should go. But I think it should be a little bit more bigger, or something where.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a unique design because they want to carry. Yeah. They don't want it to be too proprietary looking and risk patent infringement or anything like that. But the idea is to upload something into the ARM computer to have with preloaded commands, so they can access cards on the fly.
Yeah,
I think the ARM holder would probably also have like a little area where it keeps like. In most Rider seasons, they have a holder on the belt that has like what would be used to change forms or so. I think that would be on some kind of small casing in the actual armband itself. That's what I'm thinking.
And that would take up too much space at that point because the ARM terminal is a terminal.
Mm.
It's where those are going to plug in, and that's also where the keyboard is. And I'm not thinking the keyboard's used for everything, but the keyboard is definitely used for initial transformation because that's going to make really good stock footage.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And I do think that the other reason to use the keyboard is to have that equivalent to the more gadget type equipment that you see in various series. In this case, just making like a quick program to do one thing. You know, kind of like the sprites in Shadowrun. Especially since we're dealing with AR, so you have the network overlaid over the real world, easily.
Mm.
So you can have that integration at any given point. And given all of that, when it comes to the final form, there's one motif that was present for the longest time that it's shown up, but not necessarily with the primary writer as much, is the everything coming together kind of approach. I.e., the final form has aspects of all of the different forms and abilities up to that point. That was something we saw a fair bit in like the early Heisei, though it's in Neo Heisei and Reiwa, it's kind of fallen out of favor as opposed to a more direct upgrade. Or in some cases, acting like the final form is just a slight variation on the base form, which I wouldn't plan on doing that. But I do. I think with our case, the final form being the world, I think should be akin to Geats 9. In terms of what it's doing.
Meaning
that it's not I think the question I'm pondering is, should it be in that style of everything coming together, or should it be a whole new power set?
I think that because the idea I had again about combining Wheel of Fortune and Justice into the ultimate form is both about chance and fate and destiny, as well as karmic justice itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's going to be a new power set. It's not going to be something he's had before, because what it'll do is give him both the ability to, rather than just vaingloriously divine a little bit of the future very vaguely, he's going to be able to literally see the future and influence it.
So taking ZO2 just going one step further.
Taking Zeo to where it probably should have gone and never did, because Zeo is a bunch of missed fucking opportunities. But we won't get into that.
Yeah,
that's an entirely different Kamen Rider series.
But the point is, the way you're describing it, it sounds like the world would be able to directly manipulate fate.
Mm-hmm. The ultimate form and the world would be able to manipulate fate in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that the Wheel of Fortune and Justice combination is, it directs fate to always be in the hands of our main hero. That's why the ultimate form works so well. So long as he is doing what is just and correct, because obviously he won't be able to use the form if he isn't being karmically just.
Right.
It's going to direct fate to help him bring that karmic justice forward. Whereas what the world will do, the world influences the world in whole. So the big bad is also going to have the ability to manipulate fate. Just, it's not going to be necessarily in his favor. It's just direct manipulation of something he can see using the world. And then eventually, when we get the whole world, after the big bad is defeated and we have all of the pieces of it that are necessary, it's going to release the world from the control of these programs in general. We won't. The Kamen Rider will no longer need to be
Yeah.
I could definitely see that, and within that we have this nice arc of somebody who was going with the flow for the longest time, but by the end of it is seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I think that works for a good story arc.
Hmm.
And I know it would be tempting to have the conglomerate dissolve by the end of it. I think what would be more likely to happen is just better leadership.
Better leadership, and I'm pretty sure somebody would say, "Oh, our hero would be," or someone in the party would work there. No, I think just we would hear news that there's change going on. We might see them, we might not. Who knows?
I
But that
think
would
I
be
think
fun.
how it would end is that the lead character, our main writer, would defeat the bid bag, and through some legal jargon in their system, he would technically have gained control of the company. But of course, being the kind of guy he is, he's not someone who's going to want to run a company.
He's going to
So
be like a
he's gonna-
stockholder.
Yeah, he's just gonna hand the reins as CEO to somebody else. Just kind of, he'll have ownership in name only, but he'll have someone else running the show, and he'll just be off. He'll just decide to wander off and go back to doing his thing.
Albeit much richer and worrying less about where food comes from every
Exactly.
day.
Well, there's,
Like,
but at the same time, I like that, but it also works that if he had to, like later down the road, if he has to appear in some way, shape, or form, he has a legit easy way to get the powers back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could certainly see it. Now, all that being said, when it comes to our secondary, I could easily see him making one wager that would seem some wager that he made early on that seemed impossible ends up giving him one hell of a windfall. Either that or he gets some sort of windfall, but but the main reason people know it is because he ends up having the biggest night on the town possible.
Well, I think that also should be like something where we mentioned earlier, like he doesn't have like the best of luck, and what few he does is useful because he knows how to play dirty, so he rigged it in his favor. I think this would be one of those times where it was true luck, like he didn't rig it, that it resulted in him going out of the town.
Here's what I think should happen. Have him, like, near the end of the series, he starts making bigger risks, but whenever he tries to play dirty, he keeps getting caught and he keeps getting screwed over. Like, the person he's trying to cheat catches on to his cheating ways and then turns it around on him. So eventually he realizes he just has to rely on luck now. Especially in battle, I think is where he's going to have that happen, where he tries to use dirty tactics against his opponents, but they keep circumventing him and turning it around on him. So finally he just says, fuck it, and goes in blind and actually gets lucky. And then he does it outside of combat and actually gets a big windfall.
Yep. I think it's like one of the big generals should be like one of the four should be like his adversary at the end, and that's how he defeat the one general.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I would say in that regard, of the four, it should be the moon.
Because the moon can outlie and out-cheat him.
Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense.
Pretty much. But
Well,
I think with that we more or less have our foundation and our follow through very very well set up. As we go as one would go forward, if you wanted to do crossovers, you could easily have it that there be that that he's being called in for something, because since as we established very early on, a lot of us are graduates of the school of Riku Sanjo style of writing, so we would not want to have someone's story just end, or put them in a spot where you can't do anything further with them. Not to say that you do endless amounts of follow-ups, but just having there be some sort of open end to reflect the fact that, yeah, this story has ended, but that doesn't mean their story has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to kind of bookend, I do think that at the end the protagonist would finally open up his fortune-telling shop.
With a generous donation from his newfound company.
More or less. But I would say with that covers everything we could when it comes to this one. This was a interesting challenge to nail down because, as mentioned, there's a lot of different ways that this could have been taken. This was a kind of blank check. And I do hope to visit something in this direction down the road. But with that in mind, those watching, stay tuned for later tonight, because since the demo for Dynasty Warriors Origins is now out in the wild, I'm gonna be streaming my run with it. Because given the size of it, I have a feeling it's not just gonna be a 5 or 30-minute demo. So
No, it's not.
we will see how that plays out. It may be an hour, it may be several hours. I may end up playing it multiple times if I feel so inclined. And
Probably might happen.
Yeah. And of course, I did post up the schedule for this week. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of interviews this week, mostly because it's a holiday week. So I figured a lot of people are going to be more on holiday and not thinking about not thinking about their particular projects. I will be back on the grind next week. I can assure you that. Especially since we've got some interesting stuff planned for December. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk, and join the watch.